of like filming here. You know, this stable looking sofa setup. Like, very few things change. Um, Really, it is the best place to film these. And I make this decision every episode, each and every one. I usually like having the blanket like this, but there's no guarantee. There might be a few changes from time to time. I mean, this is the kitchen. This is sort of an open floor plan. One of the first. And this is in a small town home in a northwest suburb of Minneapolis, in Hennepin County. A very big, very diverse county. In fact, there is a rural Hennepin County. It is literally right next to me. Like, in one direction, there's Minneapolis, and there's still farmland in the same county as Minneapolis. That's how great we are at development, to be honest with you. But this video isn't really about development. It is about hypocrisy. What is that? I mean, most of us have a surface level understanding. It's when we do not practice what we preach. But if that was the end all be all of hypocrisy, then we would all literally be hypocrites. It is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and a lot of people seem to act like it is an instant I win button for arguments. There's, say, a coworker that you greatly dislike has a bumper sticker that disagrees with your own political views and doesn't like you and your group because your entire group has it out for this coworker, and this entire group unthink just happen to all be black. My values are still in line with that bumper sticker because you don't understand them. And I have gone through so much work drama over this that I decided to quit. That's all I'm really going to say about that. But to the people involved, I hope this finds you well, or even unwell. I don't really care anymore. This video is more about the misunderstanding of hypocrisy. And it's self-evident why. I could have a bumper sticker that does not agree with a particular point of view while also not liking a group of black people who have it out for me. Because I'm not judging you for that. I'm judging you all as a specific and separate group that also spread rumors that I was racist. That is shitty behavior. It is not justified in any way, shape, or form, and I don't care how angry Blue Sky is today. That's the way it really is. Also, you have an opinion, right? You say there is an opinion. It is a general opinion, like we shouldn't be shitty to the planet. Is it hypocrisy to throw a can of pop in the trash because there's no recycle around? I would argue that's the best thing to do in that situation. I would argue that you're not really a hypocrite until you fully turn around and drop that can on the ground, which in Minnesota is very much frowned upon, and you can get a big fine for that. This is a thing that is enforced by the Department of Natural Resources and the cops, so yeah, don't do that. Are you a hypocrite if you don't completely follow through on a series of actions? For example, do you believe that it is hypocritical that I am now filming the rest of this video in a different room? if you were fully paying attention, I would hope not. I did say I prefer filming on this channel on the sofa, and I meant that. This is the room I normally use for my tech channel, Open Source Toys. And that being part of my personality might be a bit self-evident by the stereotype of my very face. But I'm also wearing a fingerless glove that looks pretty damn badass. Is this hypocrisy? Is this a contradiction? Is this intentional or not? Well, let me be honest with you. There is part of my wrist that still has a visible scar on it because I fell over on an electric scooter. Most of the time, I don't ride that. That's something I do to emphasize, like, this is a good day, and this scooter is now going to add on top of it. And now, I wear wrist guards. Now, I preach hard that that should be the law. If you're going to wear a scooter, bare minimum, you need a helmet and you need wrist guards. Those are the two things that are most likely to be injured, and that's why I wear them. If I have damage to an elbow, if I have damage to my knees, that's easier to fix than a wrist. This hand was nearly gone in October of last year. But thankfully, the people over here were able to save it. And it is going to be stronger than ever. It's going to be a bit more difficult to go through an airport. I might, after this administration, of course, renew global entry and get TSA, the pre-check, because this is going to be a bit of a problem. I don't trust the current president, and I'm not going to give that information to him right now, to this government right now. And, you know, I like to think I'm open-minded, but I don't really say that because I'm prone to having a bit of passionate opinions, but they came from open-mindedness. It's not just, are you saying what you mean you say? Are you following through? And if someone points out the contradiction, do you have an appropriate response to justify what you're doing? Throughout this entire video, I very much did. I have an explanation for the surface-level contradictions, and the surface-level contradiction does not have hypocrisy make, especially if it is indeed more important to make your point. I did not have the opinion of wrist guards that I do now out of nowhere. It came from my own mistakes. People are flawed, and if someone admits they made a mistake, exactly like Joe Biden and the crime bill, and says they would not do that if they had known now, that is not hypocrisy. That is, as far as moral value is concerned, literally the opposite. The exact opposite. You made a mistake and learned from it. And I'm still learning from the wrist thing. I'm wearing this not just to look badass, but to help strengthen my hand, to add a little tension. And it helps. I have better grip, and it's all good. Hypocrisy isn't just about whether you do what you say or not. It's about intent and whether you have learned from your own mistakes. Because in reality, hypocrisy isn't about things that change. It's about people who don't, but continue to peddle a against. Like, the rumor panic? Well, there's been a lot of Republican elected politicians. No judgment on the voters, but a lot of the politicians have been saying things about the LGBTQ community that would imply that they are naturally going after children, and that is just something they do all the time. But in reality, I would rather have my nephews watching a drag show and going to one every day, knowing that they would be safer there than at church, at a youth group. Republicans talk a lot about how they're coming after your kids while being perfectly okay with having their face scanned to prove that they're an adult. Which will inevitably be, there will be an attempt to blackmail people through that. I'm sure that tech companies are salivating at using AI to do just that. And pushing NSFW bans that will affect adults in ways that would put minors in more danger, not less. It's sort of like, here's the thing, there are a lot of people on YouTube who riff off of outdated studies on NSFW content, and what we now know is that adults visiting those sites has the same effect as teenagers playing Call of Duty. Like, it's more of a release and something to add patience to the equation. If you want to defend kids, you absolutely want to defend the right of adults to access that stuff. And if you're worried about the exploitation within that industry, then that's not the viewer's problem. That's the industry's problem. And that's where that needs to be addressed. And the actual adult entertainment industry has done infinitely more to protect children than the politicians pushing for ID scanning laws. With paper-thin measures that are easily circumvented that make it easier for anyone curious to see that as a challenge and look at it anyway. If anything, children and teenagers have been more exposed to content that should only be available for adults because of all the pageantry behind measures that do nothing to protect children. Am I a hypocrite for saying that children need to be protected and that adults should have easy access to the content? Like how Minnesota law is now and forever will be? No. I don't just have one solution that sounds tone deaf. I have two. One that is a repetition of, well, the classic, be a better parent, be more watchful over your kids, don't just hand them iPads. Don't expect the government to monitor their stuff for you. Have mature conversations about content. What is appropriate? What is not? Why rating systems exist? And how you can take your own measures as a child. I had these conversations as a kid and a teenager. This was normal, and it needs to be normal again. About appropriateness. What is appropriate by age? Why some people are more easily able to watch some things, and others are not. And why this set of parents and this child might be okay with going into an R-rated movie. But you, personally, would probably not enjoy this. We need families to have these mutual conversations more often, not just in that, but in everything, and work together more than against each other. And we need to get back to that somehow, and I don't know how long. Things have been drifting in a more so individualist level that even families are refusing to talk to one another. Not just like family and extended family, but like within the same household. The second solution is one that feeds right into what I just said. It's a technological one that already exists and would be a solid foundation to make law on. If your real reasoning is to protect the kids, this is enough. This is a demonstration, it is fair use, I'm not even showing any of the show. And I am confident that will happen because here I am from up on high like a god figure, and I'm about to show you something that's going to blow your mind. No, not the job application. Although, I mean, I'm the guy that wears the transit-colored fursuit in Minneapolis. I really hope the hiring manager considers that. But also, if I go to Paramount Plus, clear my private data and go back to it again, I think there was some cache part that was preventing me from. For some reason, LibreWolf is working, but Florp isn't. If you go to Paramount Plus, you sign in, you go in, you show the shots but not any clips. I meant to say clips. I corrected myself. Therefore, I changed up what I preached, so that's not hypocrisy. And I'm going to South Park, okay? I'm going to go on down to South Park. There is this kid's profile, by the way, but I do a search. I don't really like how I can't flash, like when it shows the first page, I can't go back and forth. I have to wait for it to scroll all the way back. I would rather do this. I go to South Park. I hit watch now. I wait for it to load. Come on, this is the money shot of this video. I'm not going to keep waiting. I'm just going to wait for, never mind. Here we go. I have to enable DRM in LibreWolf. After this loading screen, there should be one more. I guess I have to go a bit further into the fair use well to show you what I saw. This is the closest to what I saw, and it wasn't even close. But when, I guess the first time, and only the first time, you watch something TVMA on Paramount Plus, it will prompt you and ask, would you like to set up a parental control pin for your account, which would cover all the profiles, I believe, or would you like to skip? This is an active decision, by the way. You have to decide whether or not to do that. If you are a child, that should be seen as an ominous warning, and it is probably a little confusing, too. The first instinct for a child seeing this for the first time would probably be to ask their parents to help them with it. And there you go. That is the fix. That's what all streaming platforms should do every time there is a program that is TV-14 or above, PG-13 or above. It's what gaming companies should do with their consoles if there is something rated teen or above. Some kids are more sensitive to things than others. There might be some kids who are okay with playing with games or watching movies and shows that are TV-14 and under, but seen at all without any parental control like this enabled. And as for the web and the internet at large, this sort of V-chip can absolutely be implemented. It would cost a lot less, it would use a lot less harder, it would involve a lot less rent-seeking from companies like Palantir, who absolutely want to profiteer off of an industry that absolutely wants to censor lawful content and not just protect the kids and surveil everyone and get everyone's face, everyone's ID card, stuff like that, to manipulate and exploit them. No to that entirely. The correct response is to have this show up, have something like this show up. Would you like to set a pin or would you like to skip? And it's ominous for the child already. And adults can skip knowing that they're going to get into content that is not for children. They get a warning up front and an option to have something automatic in place. Everyone is warned, everyone is aware. And that is all that is necessary to pass a law requiring an expansion of the V-chip, which is already in place and already was made with the explicit purpose of making sure that anyone and everyone could watch lawful content. While also having the tools to keep their kids and their family safe from things that could traumatize their children or even themselves, if an adult that's not really into horror or something like that. It's really a win-win all around, and the most burdened people of it would be like Florp, or anyone else who does a web browser. They would have to suddenly have a type of system with a database of sites to do the same thing as part of the browser. Or we could have a parental control system that Microsoft already has and improve upon it. So that, you can make the pin, you can skip if your family trusts each other. That doesn't have to be part of the equation at all. But it is always going to warn you. And that's it. Your deal isn't entitled to any of this rent-seeking of our own bodies and autonomy. That's way more dangerous to kids and adults. And it's exactly what the UK passed and what no one else should. And it's what the Starmer regime absolutely needs to repeal. And if he's not going to do it, then the next prime minister is. Almost certainly under a new political party that has yet to get a majority in parliament. And there are two very real contenders of that now. The difference, of course, is that I expect Corbyn to actually mean it and follow through. Better solutions are out there, and I encourage everyone to fight for them, no matter what. None of this is irreversible, by the way. None of this is part of something that can't be undone. Like, the Patriot Act is no longer in effect. We can demand more privacy, and we can make people safer. Like in matters like this, and in matters involving national security. And if Teal's pizza remains soft because of it, that is indeed the biggest win of all. Because a man who does not work and has never worked in his entire life should not dictate what people should and should not be allowed to do, nor be allowed to watch in privacy of their own home. And if there is something sketchy going on, there are ways to address it that are far more effective and don't involve surveillance whatsoever. Don't involve his creepy and inexcusable approach. And I want to get more in depth on how this can be implemented on pretty much every computer, even some really old ones. And begin the process of Minnesota doing things this way and making this approach, this V-chip, but for all communication, one way anyway. As yet another reason, Minnesota is the safest place to raise a child, and as a glorified middle finger to anyone who wants to place God where they absolutely shouldn't and have no right to, and that includes the Roberts Court. I appreciate everyone for watching this all the way to the very end, and as always,